Hello everyone and welcome to the Animezilia, and today we're going to be talking about episode 2 of the 7th volume of RWBY, entitled A New Approach. And well, that title does ring true for the most part, because we do get to see a new approach in order to handle the threat known as Salem. But overall this episode was okay. It wasn't the best, and honestly I liked the previous episode more. However, we do get to see some familiar faces return, and we get to see the Academy of Atlas, as well as the fact is we do get told some plan. Which is another problem, because if you've watched any other type of anime, if you have a plan, it never works, especially if you say it. And well, Ironwood seems to be in a sharing and caring mood, because he wants to tell everybody. And I have some doubts about this plan. But before that, we actually have the crew being transported, and they meet an intriguing character. They meet this character right here. So this character, basically, he's in there riding with them for speaking out against the military for their exploitation of Mantle. Basically, he threw a rock at one of their airships, and he makes a big deal out of it, saying he's the best. You know, if his voice could get heard, it's worthwhile. And obviously, these are matters that are very kind of political, and people don't agree with them. Don't agree with the approach that the higher-ups at Atlas have gone towards. But this character starts talking about another character who we've yet to be introduced to, and it's a character known as Robin Heel. And apparently, she has a group working underneath her known as the Happy Huntresses. Yes, don't let the stupid name fool you, or, you know, the light name, take it lightly. These Happy Huntresses are basically huntresses that have been the top graduates of their academy and are willing to fight for the cause that they want to believe in. Which in this case is the fact that Ironwood and the military have mistreated the residents of Mantle and have unfairly treated them in the way that they've gone about handling the situation. So we could see some confrontation from that point coming into play. And honestly, I'd like to see that. If you saw my if you saw my opening discussion video that I've just put up before this one, then you'll know that there is a scene, or if you've watched the opening, you'll know there's a scene with Crow fighting alongside a certain character while facing Ace Tyrion. Now, is this the character known as Robin Heel? Or is it one of the Happy Huntresses? Whichever the case being, it could possibly lead to Crow kind of maybe turning slightly and working with the Happy Huntresses and Robin Heel. Because at the end of this review, or at the end of this episode to speak, Crow's not 100% happy with the way things are going. And I'll explain why later on. So moving on from that, we actually get our first look at Atlas Academy. And honestly, my first thoughts were Star Wars. Especially the landing of the carrier ship. It just reminded me of something straight out of a Star Wars film. Like even the platform. You can see it in this image right here. It just looks so similar. And I'm someone who hasn't watched Star Wars for 5 or 6 years. I don't even like the franchise. And I can still go, that's Star Wars. So, yes. Now, we move on to another part. Oh, 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I thought someone was at the door. Right, so where was I? Right, so we see the crew getting taken to the holding area before they get interrupted. And this scene, I wouldn't normally talk about it. However, Blake tells RWBY that it's all up to her. She states that whatever RWBY decides, everybody else is going to follow her lead. Which, okay, this show has done a great job at showing RWBY's leadership skills. And this shows that the group respect RWBY, and, you know, they know that she can lead a group and she has the best decisions. I'm not disputing this fact. The thing I find wrong with this, though, is that all the way through Volume 6, we saw just how much pressure and how much kind of mental strain RWBY has on her shoulders and how much weight she has to carry because of all the kind of responsibility on her shoulders. And Blake, being a friend, just comes along and goes, we're giving you more. We're going to push more responsibility onto you. You know, you can handle it. And we saw that with her training, RWBY really needs someone that she can help share the kind of the responsibility with, because she's still young. She's the youngest member. I mean, apart from Oscar, she's the youngest member of the group. And yet, she's acting like she's the oldest and she's meant to make all the smart decisions. Even Winter states in this episode to Crow, I can't believe you let these kids do this. You need to be more responsible. And Crow's reaction is like, nah, well, you try handling these bunch of kids, you know? And it's RWBY having this much more pressure on her just takes, you know, it's going to push her over the edge at one point. I mean, okay, fine, I have just watched Fate's Day Night, the new Lost Butterfly film, and I kind of want to see an alternate version of RWBY, maybe a grim version, but that's just, you know, it's not going to happen, but, you know, it's pushing her towards an edge where she might break. And yes, there's only a small amount of pressure, but everything does mount up. I just thought that from Blake's character, it was a bit kind of, you know, it was a bit of a low blow. Anyway, moving on. We do actually see Winter. And Winter's new design, it looks smart. The colour scheme fits the character really well. I don't have the best image to show you here, and the animation is pretty janky in this part, but I do like the design. It suits her character very nicely. But what I liked more about Winter's character is the concern and the emotion that she showed in this episode towards her sister Weiss. She scolds her, but we all know that that scolding comes from care and love. She's like, you stole a ship? You know how dangerous that could have been. We could have shot you down. She was worried for her sister, and that's something we haven't really seen very much of. And honestly, that was a nice change of pace, and yes, it breaks the cold exterior and the icy heart that Winter like shows with her character, but even when seeing everyone in handcuffs, she's like, right, you have 10 seconds to unhandcuff everybody right now. And it just, I don't know, it was a nice change of pace for her character, and for us to see her back after, I think, 2 volumes. She might have made an appearance in volume 4, if not, then 3 volumes. It's just nice to see that she has changed ever so slightly in terms of the way she cares for her family. Okay, so Ironwood. We have a new plan, and Ironwood has basically told he told Winter and he's told Penny about Salem, Ozpin, the reincarnation trick, the relics, the maidens, so even Ironwood knows all of this. So this clears up a bit of time. It saves RWBY and the gang having to explain everything, and even state that the Winter Maiden is in a stable condition, which raises a few eyebrows, because what does that mean? Like, is she injured? Or is she sick? Could she not control her powers? Are her powers fading? So she's in like a capsule like they did with the Full Maiden before, what's her name got to him? Cinder. So that was very intriguing that he actually knew that already. It shows that Atlas does have a good communication system, which we do know, but it's nice to be reminded. But the plan. So Ironwood wants to rebuild Beacon Tower bigger and better than ever. And he wants to try and reconnect the other countries and towns within Remnants. At first it seems like it's a good idea, but the reasons for doing it is where things get a bit dicey. they want to rebuild a tower on top of the Amity Arena, which the purpose of the Amity Arena was to unify the nations within Remnants, and he wants to also launch the satellite into the atmosphere / space, away from the reach of any Grim or any threat. Now, this sounds like a solid plan. It's brilliant, but we know the plan. That's the problem. And once completed, he does also want to tell Atlas about Salem? That one. So this is the reason as to why the army, the military, has been withdrawn back to Atlas. This is to basically calm the citizens, because he knows there's going to be mass panic. Okay, but he just wants everyone to know. He thinks that Ozpin's idea of keeping everything a secret from everybody was a mistake. I don't follow that logic very well. And then afterwards, he wants to use the satellite to tell everybody in Remnants about Salem. So it's going to create even more panic. And Winter's just like, yeah, well, we'll dish troops out to help calm everybody. You know, that's fine. But this panic will cause more Grim to attract. And with the relics in every single place... Oh, and I think they mentioned that Atlas has the spear relic hidden away somewhere in the vault. So that's going to come into play later. I just think that this mass panic throughout the entire nation is going to be too much. Atlas won't be able to control it, and it's going to be a big blunder on Ironwood's part. Now, like I said, the plan sounds good, but it's not great. And I have a small theory on how things might play out, and it isn't favourable for Ironwood's character. So stay tuned until the end of this video for that little mini theory, which won't be very long. Speaking of James Ironwood, it seems like his personality is kind of shifted a little bit. So this episode, his personality seems a bit unfitting for his character, especially the character known as Ironwood, as we've always seen him be this proud, upstanding, kind of confident man, and he's, gives this impression that we can all rely on him. And yes, he told Winter and Salem because he needs people, Winter and Penny, about Salem, because he needs people he can trust after Ozpin left. But when he learned that Oscar was Ozpin's new reincarnation, he got extremely happy. But then once he found out that Ozpin had gone, he was kind of like, oh, okay. But we can always find a way to do it. We have to work up together and find a way to bring him back. And I've just realised that I didn't actually crop the arm in to the image behind me. That's kind of a blunder. Anyway. Even after finding out that Ozpin could come back, he even goes up to Crow and says, look, when I said it's good to see you again, I meant it. Give me a hug. And this is not really in line with the character that we know of through James Ironwood. Yes, he's been through a lot, and despite everything he's been through and gone through, he still has the determination to pull through and to have this plan to carry on pushing forward. And I like that about his character. But at the same time, this episode did a good job to showcase that he is still human, despite what he's gone through and what kind of enhancements he has on his body now. So Ironwood is still very much human at heart, and this episode did a brilliant job at showcasing his emotions. Next up, I want to talk about RWBY. Yeah. Because I wasn't too happy with the lies that she pulled in this episode, telling Ironwood that all the wishes for the lamp had been used up. Especially after scolding Ozpin for all the lies that he's been keeping. But here's a reason as to why I'm willing to forgive RWBY. It's because when she got the relic back, she genuinely looks like she regretted lying to Ironwood. She understands that he's had a lot on his shoulders. Those two are fairly similar in terms of their responsibilities and their weights. It's just Ironwood has a whole nation, but RWBY has, the whole world. And the look on RWBY's face just states that she regrets lying to him. And she wants to open up, and she wants to kind of share information with him, but it's going to take some time. So honestly, that expression on her face saved RWBY's character from being a hypocrite in my personal opinion. But we end this episode off with a little bit of comedy, because we meet the Special Ops team again, and it turns out that the slightly tan dude with the black hair is actually a dog or a wolf honest. And he's a bit of a tsundere because he's like, I'm not happy to work with you guys, and his tail is wagging back and forth. It's meant to be a joke, and we do have some more comic relief with Nora, and we have comic relief with Penny. Penny's being so lively and so jolly, just going, here's the cafeteria, here's the toilets, here's this, here's that, here's that. You're going to feel well at home. And, yeah. So we end with a bit of comedy, as well as the fact is, we get told that Tyrion and Dr. Watts are in the town that we were in last episode. Now, this honestly wasn't that big of a deal in my opinion. I wasn't that shocked, because we've seen them in the intro. If you've seen my discussion about the intro, then you would know where they are in the intro. Or if you've watched the intro yourself and you've kind of figured it out, then hooray. But yes, even Dr. Watts appears in the intro, and it's just like, alright, fine. It's a bit early, but it's not like a, whoa. At least last week, when we saw Penny come back, we didn't actually see the intro. So we actually were genuinely surprised. And it looks like Tyrion's killed someone, but again, we don't know who it is. And we get shown Arthur Watts' ability with technology again, disabling cameras and bypassing security. And you know what? That's pretty good. But here's the mini theory that I have really quickly. So we know that Dr. Watts is a great hacker. He's good with technology, and he's helped create a lot of tech in Mantle. So this is why he can manipulate the technology as he does within episodes. So if they have it to where Ironwood changes the plan last minute and decides he doesn't want to release info about Salem, why can't I say that name? Salem anymore, due to the mass panic being unavoidable and uncontrollable, but the satellite still goes up into space, then all Dr. Watts has to do is hack this. And he has the abilities to do that because he probably did create lots of technology and software to basically help create this. Now, this would be at the end of the volume if this happens, and it'll probably end the volume with an announcement from Salem. Like, could you imagine Salem appearing up on screen in every nation across Remnants and being like, your leader or one of your representatives, James Ironwood from Atlas, didn't want to release information about me. I am Salem, and I'll tell you my story. And then we suddenly see towns and villages being destroyed and burnt and swarming with Grimm. Everything will end in complete chaos. It'll be like the Fall of Beacon again, but on a national scale. And honestly, if they do that, that'll be brilliant. But that's really all I got to say about this episode. It was a pretty decent episode. It was okay. Animation seemed a bit clunky at times. Like, I paused some of the animation and I kind of watched it throughout, and some of it just seemed way too kind of thick. I don't know how to explain it properly, but it just kind of felt off. Music and that was good. Sound effects were okay. All in all, yeah, decent episode. If I had to rate it, maybe a 6. But anyway, I'm hoping to see more, because we're getting new weapons, new outfits, and stuff coming in future episodes. Hopefully next week, because, you know, want to see them quickly. But apart from that, guys, I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me. Until next time, comment your thoughts down below. And until next time, have a great day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye for now.